events can be a really good catalyst. They are a catalyst for sales and marketing when they are done right.
Matt,
we're live.
Nice hat.
Thanks, dude.
You from New York?
I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah, that's
it's
what I thought.
It's a Yankee hat, though.
That's what I thought. So, all right. So you made a post. You made a post on LinkedIn
The Jets and the Giants play in New Jersey.
talking about CMOs.
What now?
And how events are a go-to-market function. You had a high-level conversation with a CMO.
Yep.
And we wanted to. You're likely going to have this person on the show.
I hope so. Yeah.
But to kind of just break down this idea of where do events fit in go-to-market. Let's start with I'm an event marketer.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm junior in my career. Maybe I've used to be called an event organizer or manager. This term go-to-market, is this, you think, something event marketers already know?
I do. I think at larger organizations, most of the organization, right, that is in the sales and marketing branch arm of the company understands what go-to-market is, right? Okay. I mean, if you're in sales, marketing, product, right, you're understand that motion.
Cool. How do you define it, just in case?
Go-to-market, it's your strategy. A lot of people deliver the idea of like a new product or a new service, but I understand that. But I do think it is your strategy. It is your approach. It is the way you are bringing your product or service to the audience, and essentially twofold. One is how you're obtaining new customers. And then the other fold, though, is also, I believe, as well as the way that you obtain, increase average sale with current customers, whether that's diversifying your offering or maneuvering one offer that you have that a person's buying into another, essentially.
Yeah, that's well said. When I first started using the term go-to-market with my dad, he thought it was like launching a product. My dad's an entrepreneur, right? He thought it was launching. I think
that's where it stems from too, though.
Where it stems from. But today, I think the simplest way to put it is go-to-market is when you look at the entire marketing, sales, customer success, and product function of a business. Meaning how you gain awareness, convince someone to buy, how you get them to adopt it and do well and upsell, and how you evolve the product to continue to serve them. So it's like a really holistic kind of function.
Everything you just said is what event marketers need to be doing through their events.
Tell me more.
Everything. So that's why I stopped you, because I think that's the big piece here. That is the big key. Is long are the days of just of the event department being the executioners and just executing and getting the event done for getting the event done for the sake of it, per se, right? And there are some companies still living in that world, but essentially the trickle down that's happening is events are a part of go-to-market. They are a part of sales. They are a part of marketing, right? And they're becoming an arm of product, essentially, and how it gets out there, and always has been. So the idea is, from a high level, I think that, again, measurement and data is how you prove your case in sales and marketing of if you're doing well or not, right? If you have a sales team or a salesperson, or you have marketing, you know your conversion rates, you understand numbers, you understand for a salesperson, what's their retention, you understand what's their new business, you understand what their upsell, these things. Events have to get in the habit of understanding what their part is, because they're going to have to communicate that up to leadership to show their involvement and where they're contributing. And if they don't, the axe is coming eventually. It always comes. It comes in cycles, right? Bad market. It's one of the first places they look to reduce the budget, right? Reduce the budget, reduce the resources, cut out shows. Oh, we don't need that big of a booth. Oh, we don't need to throw that event. It just gets cut, because you don't have anything saying, whoa, I understand we normally come to me to cut. But now, man, is every part of sales and marketing contributing to the pipeline at the rate that we are? Here's the information to back it up. Here's what we're doing. And I think we're just going to have to get more event teams and marketing teams that are thinking that way.
I like that. And it's a good definition to give, right? If an event marketer that's listening to this, kind of like a new terminology, or if they've heard it a bunch and want to really understand it, I think it's good to just kind of define it, maybe an asking for a friend scenario. But what I'd like to dive into, we talked about marketing, sales, customer success, and product. Just to tap for a second on sales and marketing, I think we know that. Right? They know that they're a part of that. I feel like we've done a lot of shows that are just kind of data on the funnel and where it fits in the funnel and acquiring a client. Anything that you want to just kind of really clarify from a 10,000 foot level to just make this a complete show, and then we'll dive into the less obvious.
I think I had a great conversation with our buddy John Wolf and Joe Fetterbush, right? John's on the brand side with Lenovo. Joe has his own agency, and they really work with data and measurement. But we were talking about basically defining what success looks like from an event team standpoint. And that goes immediately to your stakeholders. You have to get them involved. And we've talked about this a ton, but just for specific clarity, who are the stakeholders? They're pieces of what you're saying: sales, marketing, product, leadership, right? In those things. What do they want out of the events?
Yeah.
A lot of times you're going to get different opinions. They're measured differently. They're tracked differently. They have different initiatives. And one thing that John said I thought was really important, because I'm always thinking like, okay, how do you take all this and put it together as an initiative for the event? But the problem is, at large organizations, becomes complex because you're getting told 9 different things.
Yeah.
John said, what's mission critical? So based on the event, so say you have a schedule of 5 events. Let's just say, I mean, they have way more. I think their program's like 38 events or
He
something like
just
that.
sent me his calendar yesterday.
Yeah,
He's got a ton of events.
It's big, right? So essentially, those 5 events, what is mission critical to each? And that dives into, is it about current customers, about new prospects? Is it about referrals? Is it about partnerships? Is it a mix of everything? Like, what's the event for? Like, you're deciding based on the information and your, call it qualitative and quantitative experience at the event of what is mission critical, because you can't make everybody in all these initiatives happy, you know? So that is part of when you're thinking about go to market, running into events, and then what events need to accomplish is, events are going to either marketing who is running and really truly in control, or when you have companies that have head of global events or really senior director level event people that are making those calls, they're going to have to decide what's mission critical and what's not, and then build that into how they strategize and how they approach and the way that they execute.
Got it. So it's stuff we talk about a lot on the show, bringing all the stakeholders,
Yeah.
understanding that, like you famously say, events are a moment in time.
Yep.
And that moment in time needs to serve a purpose, right? Is it to get more leads? Is it to hit on existing pipeline?
Yeah.
Is it to activate existing customers? Is it to find partnerships, right? Like we talk a lot about this kind of like
And
piece.
we have talked about it a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like a crazy person at times talking about it so much. So my goal is to now try to create some depth and more clarity to
Yeah.
it. John really did a great job of it the other day on the show. So one of my goals is, as I'm talking to people, is like, okay, it's easy to say, what does success look like? But when you get into the complexity of organizations, particularly large one, they're executing events, there are challenges that arise.
Yeah.
What are those challenges and how are people combating them? Because at the end of the day, the advice and the direction is still the same. You need clarity on what does success look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then you have to apply it, and you have to take strategy and approach and go do it. And then you have to measure it and create data from it. My goal moving forward is to create more clarity and understand where people are running into issues. Because we have clients that we work with where, like, this is where we start. Mm-hmm. We start here. We're like, we don't want to talk about anything until we understand this so we can help you accomplish something. We have some times where we are talking to the president, the key decision maker, the CMO, the VP of it. They make the call. They are the owner. And when you have that what does success look like conversation, they may not be clear right away, but they give you the clarity, and then it's very easy to march forward and create and deliver. Versus we also have clients who it's 3-4 grades above them.
Yeah.
And they struggle to get the information. They don't know who to go to. They're scared to go ask. They just need what they need, and it becomes a bit of a struggle. But how can I help them understand how to navigate what they have going on? Because out there somewhere is an event marketer that has done that before.
Yeah. And I would also assume that just like when you talk to clients and you ask them that, you probably get like okay, yeah, let's think through this. This is useful to me. And the event marketer, I would say, lean on the idea that like they're gonna find it useful to think through it unless you're working for the wrong person.
We get a couple different things.
Yeah.
One is, why do I need to know that? I'm not really concerned about it. I really just want a nice design and I want to go on my way. Frustrating, but it is the way that things have been for so long. Yep. That has been okay. Mm-hmm. So when you engage somebody in a conversation, if they're not being asked to measure, and I'm not saying we're saying, hey, you can only work with us if you're measuring. That's not the case at all. We're not even talking about measuring. We're just talking about, how can we take a little bit more of a strategic approach before we design this booth? How can I help you have more success at your shows when we design a booth and we help you with content and we help you with engagement and we help you go execute? But there are people that really balk at it, and that's okay. You know, we understand that, so we try to pull the reins back a little bit. We try to get them in as a customer, and then wait down the line and say, hey, here's a case study of what we did with this company, right? It worked. Here's the results. Is this something you're interested in? Can you run this up the flagpole? So it's just changing. But then, to your point, you have conversations with some people that are like, I've been on calls with my AEs and Cody, our director of marketing, where the client or prospect on the other end is like, oh, Yeah, I love this conversation. Let's talk.
Let's do
Yeah,
this.
so that you have the right person. So that it's cool. It's 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10. But how can we get it to 3 to 4 to 5? Right? We're working.
Yeah, and I think we haven't used this term for a while, but like to me, that being the first one that brings that to someone that, and I'm gonna transition to another point here, right? But like,
Yeah, let's go to.
being the person that brings that up to somebody is kind of like the path to promotion time, right? But that being said,
It is. Yeah, it can be. Yeah,
it
you're
can
right.
be.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit more nuanced, all right? So that's kind of like big picture stuff. Let's just tap into a little bit of the more non-obvious. Sales and marketing totally makes sense. Customer success, product, events. What are we talking about here? Like, what does customer success look like for events, and product look like for events if it has to be part of go-to-market?
Okay, so I think there's a couple like prongs from those and everything.
Yeah.
But so the prongs that I think about when you say customer success and you say product is one is kind of like the pipeline impact discussion that we've always had. So at your events, from a customer success standpoint, you have to understand that everybody wants to talk about leads, but there are motions and activities and things happening at events where you're running into current customers, you're running into old customers, you're running into current customers that have dropped off and are not spending as much, you're running into current customers that you can sell them something different. There's a wide array of that happening. Those interactions at the events matter for what then happens next. Do you grow their increase in sales? Do you take a customer that's fell out to correct a thing that happened and build them back up? Like, what do these touch points create? And they are pipeline. People get very stuck on pipeline, on new business, and it is. But there is a huge factor, and we have clients that we work with that when we identify this, we readjust what they're doing. They regain a little bit of a focus. They create more of an execution mindset or path towards that. Like, oh, damn, like we got to leverage this time with these customers, and they create success. Now, from the product.
Well, let's stay in customer success.
Sure.
I simplify that to, because it's easy to talk about customer success if you're a software client.
Yeah.
Right, but not everybody is. I empathize with that. To me, customer success, it's like, do we use this as an opportunity to teach our clients how to utilize us better?
100%.
Right? Whether you're
100%.
a service agent or whatever, right? Just like teach them this like new thing that you're doing, teach them how to like talk to you in better ways, just kind of like update them on stuff, get them to be more all in on what you do. And a lot of that is really relationship building, right? It's a lot of relationship building, it's a lot of trust building, and sometimes it's my favorite version of it is just like getting the people that really, really you love working with to interact with the people that you kind of like working with, so that they just kind of like start to get it a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I think there's a huge factor. There's a sales factor with customer success that is always exploring your customers.
Yeah.
What problems are they encountering? I think a lot of times, a lot of companies, whether it's a product or a service or software, whatever it may be, it's underutilized by the person that originally bought it. Or you have more offering, better offering, and things that they don't find out. They don't. Events are a great opportunity to open that up and explore that.
Yeah, I'm a wholesale food distributor. They buy my berries, but they're not buying my apples, right?
So
like, check out my apples, right? Like,
100%. So the two prongs that I'm thinking about with this is one is the pipeline impact piece. It is a major piece that happens at events, right? The second part is what we were talking about earlier, which is like stakeholder alignment, company initiatives. Almost every large company has some initiative. There is some portion of sales, customer success, or the executive level that is thinking about current customer, growing current customer, more specifically, not like reducing churn and having very good retention. So how do you, through events, how are you, it's an opportunity. I mean, it just is. Like you're on the fritz with your customer, something went wrong, and look, things go wrong, right? Incidents happen, things outside of your control, especially when you're a big company. The event is a great opportunity to say like, hey, Jane, like I want to pull you aside and talk about this. Make it right. Have the conversation. You can flip a relationship back in 2 seconds. So there's a lot of importance there in those two prongs with it.
Yeah. I would just like final takeaway there before we move on to product. Two things is going to the reps, going to the people that interact with the clients and just be like, has anybody here had an ugly situation? Has anybody here felt any kind of pain? Did we fumble the ball on anybody? And how can we just have like a cool experience with them? That's one. That's preventing churn. And the other one that I think of when you talk about like growing customers is I find that when I tell people the term, how do we grow share of wallets? Everybody's eyes open up, right? So like if I'm a marketer, I'm going into this conversation and be like, hey, are we trying to grow share of wallet here? It's going to make you look like a smart lady, smart person. All right. So then product, when I think of product, I think of the people making the stuff, the ones like creating the logistics, delivering it, or designing the software, or creating the product. Often just don't have any kind of like full contact with the client. They're kind of like, sometimes they're the ones most removed from the client.
Yeah.
So as I'm thinking about my event program this year, there's certain events where we are an AI company and whatever, right? But like, how do I bring my engineers and the ones that are actually building the thing to a booth to just like, with some good questions to ask the people coming in that maybe validates the stuff that they're like, I don't know if what I'm doing here has a purpose. Is there a better way to do it? Is that kind of it?
I think it's incredibly valuable to have product people on the show floor or at your event when you're exhibiting, right? The makers, the creators, the engineers, whatever it may be. You know, when you start talking about things like net promoter scores and doing surveys and trying to gain feedback and things that you want to gain, you know, I mean, I think it would be valuable working with those people to understand what do they want as you're talking and approaching people. And then I think the other side of your product case is essentially like, get creative. It's your in-person time to get creative. Yeah. How do you engage somebody to try the product, to demo the software, right? To look, see, feel, touch, to engage in discussion, to utilize, to gamify, to whatever it is, do something unique and different. People like that stuff. Yeah. They do. They like being engaged with a product in certain ways, you know? I mean,
as you're talking about it, I'm thinking of like three kind of things. Maybe it's four, but it's like, how do I think of it in like the lanes of, can I get my person that's my product person? Can I get them to like have an aha moment of like a good idea?
Yeah.
Can I get my product person to like validate something that they thought was BS and now they're like, oh no, man, I actually really care about this and it's like more fulfilling. Yep. And then I also think, can I get my clientele to be like, oh dude, the people building this are really smart. Like, how do I put the product person in a place to succeed where you can make them impressive, right? Like,
so I think I would say, like, depending how technical your product is, and again, always depending on who your customer and audience is that's buying it, it is about what people want, right? What does that audience want when they come to engage with you? What are they seeking at that event? But yeah, I think there's something to be said for if you are engineering a software or a product or something, like, how do you meet those two in the middle? You know, how do you get them conversing? How do you do showcases, demos, make it fun, make it interesting, take Q&A, talk about it, right? Like, I've always envisioned at some point in time with Rockway where we would throw a dinner with like our top 10 customers, right? If you could get them all to come in for it, and then you're treating them like an advisory board. Yeah. Where are we not doing what we need to do for you? What are we, you know, like, you want to be able to gain all those questions. Being in person is an excellent time to be able to poke and pry. And I think the other thought I'm thinking as I go into this is, and it's something we're going to run a show on because it was a question during one of the live shows and it really sparked me, is people want to know more about tactical execution during and on the show floor, about having a plan, having a script, making sure everybody knows where to be, what to do, and the way you want to move people. And one of the other ones is, I can say this I love salespeople. I think salespeople are the most, like,
I mean, you're a sales guy.
I am a salesperson. Yeah, I started like most necessary evil on the planet. They're a bunch of animals. They get shit done. They're doers, man. They're like they will chop that wood on that tree as hard as they can, right? But sometimes they lack cleverness and the thought of opening conversations to obtain information. Salespeople want to tell you everything, and right? And that's just inherent natural. Trade shows and events are a really good example of execution. Can you script questions? Can you script idea conversation starters? I've asked you to do this for us numerous times. It's like,
I love doing that.
Yeah, because it's like, how do you get your customer talking? How do you get them telling you either feedback, what they're thinking, what they need, so you can find how to meet them in the middle? It's that data, that feedback, and in-person's a great way of doing it. So it takes me into that execution on the show floor. A lot of people just leave it to chance, right? It's like they roll the balls out on the floor and they don't coach the team, and they're like, hey, you know, sales, do your thing. Everybody get out there, have a plan. Start dialing in the depth of what's going on at the show. It's a really clever way of executing just a tick better at your events.
I want to finish this show by asking you to answer where events fit in go-to-market, and just think about that for a second. I'm just going to kind of summarize, right? Go-to-market being marketing, sales, customer success, and product. Where do events fit in there? From my takeaway of the conversation, we kind of started with this idea of like first aligning with stakeholders and understanding where we want it to fit. And then my final kind of takeaway is just kind of like, events can fit anywhere and go to market based on your needs. It's just kind of what I'm taking away from there. Anything you want to add to that?
It's a good question on where they fit. I think an overarching thought that I constantly continue to have is I don't know if events will ever climb to the like rise of being like at the level that sales and marketing is in terms of like importance in a company, right? They'll typically sit below, because when you think of a company, you think like, sales, marketing, administrative, you have these different levels, right? And I don't know if events will ever get to that point, but my point and where I'm thinking about events and go to market is, and I urge people, I've used this phrase a bunch, events can be a really good catalyst. They are a catalyst for sales and marketing when they are done right. You know what I mean? They amplify touch points, they amplify pipeline, they do all these different things with your customers, with your new prospects. Depending on your size, scale of company and industry, brand awareness piece is really big. It's this moment with people. So events are a catalyst, and that's where I think they belong in the go-to-market piece is what are you trying to accomplish in sales? What are you trying to accomplish in marketing? And then essentially you're tying that into events and saying, let's use each event as a moment to be a catalyst for both sales and for both marketing. That's kind of how I view it.